You guys last week. Did you guys have that experience? Did anybody have that experience last week?
Yes.
I missed it. Isn't that neat? I mean, how fun that we've only been together for a few weeks in a row, but you know, and I was doing something very wonderful and fulfilling, as I'm sure a lot of you were too. But it was just, you know, I missed being with my family. I missed having that experience with you guys, and that was pretty neat for me. So I wanted to share that with you. Hi, Lisa.
Hi.
So, Lisa brought a friend. What was her name? What was her first name?
Doris.
Doris. You mind if I share Doris's miracle? I think Doris would want me to.
Yes.
Okay? So, Doris came to see me. Lisa brought her. Lisa's, so all of you have, you know, referred so many amazing people. So I just continue. If I haven't thanked each of you individually for sending someone here, thank you. But Lisa brought Doris, and Lisa's the one who's coming and she's learning, and they're going to be starting a little study group in the Canton area because they can't all travel, so they're starting to get a little group together there. So, Julie. Do you know Doris too, or do you not know Doris?
I
Just do her. Okay, so Doris came to see me, and Doris had a lot of issues and a lot of long-time issues that she really didn't feel she would ever really overcome. But Lisa, you know, thinks highly of the work that we do here, so she brought her. So Doris came and saw me, and she had an experience. And Lisa was in the room, and she videotaped it. So she, you know, so many of you, I ask you to record your visits, you know, and have someone you love that can come with you videotape them so you get to enjoy it. So she videotaped it. And I saw Doris for the first time since that visit last week, right? Something like that, last week. And so Doris walks in the room, she sits down, and I look at her. First of all, Doris looks completely different. I mean, completely different. Lisa?
Yes.
Yeah, completely different. She looks probably, I'd say at least 10 years younger.
Yes. Absolutely.
Okay. Her color is completely different in her face. Her hair looks completely different. And I sit down and I say, so how you doing? And she goes, well, ever since I left here last time, I haven't had any of the problems that I had the last time I came. So I thought that was just miraculous. She just, everything, literally, she says, I've had the thought, but I can't convert it into any action step anymore. So Doris will remain anonymous Doris, but she's, needless to say, she experienced incredible healing. So I just like to share that. What we're doing really, really works. It really works. You know, and Doris had no idea what I did. Doris had no idea what she was getting herself into. If any of us really did, you know, would we do it? So Doris Doris had an amazing experience. So I thank you for referring Doris, and Doris is, and at some point Doris will make her way to a meeting, and she'll, when she's ready, and she'll share. She had another amazing visit, and she continues to go through transformation. So I just want to continue to share those miracles. So did everybody who isn't here tonight, did everyone here watch the class from last time, the second class? Did everyone? Who didn't get a chance to see the class from last time? You didn't get a chance to see the chance? Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a quick review of some focus points. Last class, I mean, they just continue to just, I don't know, they just continue to get more and more amazing. So please make time to watch the classes and get the study notes. If you're not on the list, have Sarah send you the stuff, do your homework. Again, not because one class necessarily builds on another, but because when we do our first little bit of review, you'll be more familiar with what the review's about, which is only about 5 or 10 minutes of the class, so it's not that big of a deal. But you're going to get a little bit of stuff that you're not going to have a context for. So you're helping me practice new people coming to the meeting, so you're helping me work through my shtick on what do I need to say this time. We didn't make it to the last class, so I'm always getting better at this. By about 10,000 shows, I'll probably be pretty decent, so I'll need you all to hang with me. Okay? So the last visit, we started getting into really talking about emotions more, and we started talking about death and our reaction to death and how we deal with it. And so I'm going to ask this question to some of the people that were here last time, because we're just going to get some relevancy from them. So the first focus point for what are your feelings about death, and what situations am I more likely to react more emotionally instead of intuitively? And what have I become aware of since the last class regarding death and my emotional reactions? Now, someone who wasn't here for the talk on death, you can always offer information on that. But did anybody here from the last class have an experience regarding death of something, or an experience of death that they saw differently or handled differently? Anybody? Just by chance?
Sarah.
Sarah?
My father passed away in January, and he was 95, and he really wanted to go, and he willed it. And because he had been fine until he had a stroke, then he went downhill. And I was elated about his death, and I couldn't tell anybody that. I couldn't put the words because I thought maybe they wouldn't understand. And I completely understood why I was elated in this last class. So it really released me to just feel good about it.
Isn't that neat? You know, and that's my grandfather. My grandfather and my grandmother, but my grandfather, he died when he was a couple months short of 94. And, you know, I remember talking with him outside his house, and I said, I always brought all my cards over to show him. When I'd get a new car, I'd take it over to show him. And he said, you know, he said, Keith, I've seen a lot of beautiful sunrises, I've seen a lot of beautiful sunsets, I've had a really full life. And I'm ready to go. I'm done. And same thing with him. He stopped eating, he stopped drinking, and 2 weeks later, he peacefully passed away. And there was nothing but joy at that experience as well. So I'm so happy that you're able to finally experience that joy in your heart that you have the right to experience. And even though her situation was someone older, I was someone older, we have the right to experience that with any moment of death that we feel at peace with. Okay, we shouldn't let other people's sense of peace around death dictate our experience around the experience of death. It doesn't mean we can't be compassionate, but we should allow ourselves to have the experience around death that we are able to have. Okay, and of course, if it includes grief or sadness or crying, whatever. But if it doesn't, we should allow ourselves that option as well. It should be one of the bubbles on the thing we can fill in, right? We can fill in, I'm okay. Some of the reflection questions: how is my external environment, parents, brothers, sisters, relatives, religion, and other institutions, shape my feelings about death? Okay, does anybody want to comment? And anyone can comment on this, even if they weren't the last class. Does anyone have anything they want to say about that? Yeah, Pam.
So death in my family was always like a scary situation, you know, like you would go into this really creepy room, it smelled bad, and you know, there was somebody unmoving, and nobody really kind of talked about that at all, so there's no communication. So in my mind, I would always develop this sort of storyline that wasn't really true, and I see him breathing, and you know, so I was freaking myself out all the time. And when my grandmother recently passed away, you know, we were all with her when she passed, and you know, it wasn't sad at all, like you expressed. It wasn't sad at all. I was grateful. She was 96, you know, and so she passed, though, really kind of painfully, and that was, you know, another little reminder that, you know, it doesn't have to be that way, and maybe she didn't know any better, you know, so it's like communication. So I make my children go to the funerals, and we talk about what that is, and, you know, because I want them to have a bigger view of that. So me growing up when I was small, it was scary and weird, and I was afraid, you know.
Now, in some religions, okay, there's an implied event of judgment, okay, that, you know, when you pass away, that's when you become held before judgment, and based on your beliefs or your deeds, you're judged as, you know, someone who deserves to go to heaven or deserves to go to hell. And again, that's one way of looking at it, okay. I don't know how much it really instills, you know, a peaceful transition, but you know, different strokes for different folks. We'll be good at that. All right. What are my fears? What are my fears around my own? Or let's stick with that. We have others, but we've kind of covered that a little bit. What are my fears around my own death? Okay. So come on, someone's going to have one of these. Who wants to talk about it? What's your fear around your own death? Okay. Everyone's being a little. Kathy.
I believe
intellectually, I believe that death is the doorway into something else. And my fear is that it isn't.
That's a really honest answer. That's a really honest answer. Thank you, Kathy. First time she's saying something, she comes up with a whopper. Yeah. Okay. That's great. Isn't that something we've all thought about or at least reflected on? I mean, I know. I think anyone who's sane has at least had that thought. Okay.
Oh, Catherine.
Oh.
I'm afraid I'm not going to get everything done. And that's really how my whole life is. It's like I never get everything done. I always have this story going on in my head that I'm not going to get stuff done or I haven't gotten stuff done. And when you ask that, I went, oh, that's interesting.
Isn't it? We're never done. Remember, we are a product. People want to be something that's getting things done instead of something that is being completed. We are the product in an ever ongoing stage of completion. We are that which is never complete. So to get hooked into never getting it done is simply an outward projection of an inward enlightenment that you haven't come to peace with yet. You are that which is never done. Now, isn't that a relief? You're that which is never done. So of course it's never all going to be done. It's never meant to be done. It's a continuum. It's an eternal process. So you can let that go now. Because all you're doing was you were trying to resolve a truth, which is meant to give you peace, and instead was causing a level of anxiety. You are always in an ongoing project of perfection. You are perfect, becoming more and more perfect every moment. Okay? Am I willing to change my beliefs about death? Well, I think if we're in this room, we're at least pretty open to give it a shot, right? We're willing to change. If we're in this room, are we willing to change?
Yes.
Yeah. If we're not willing to change, are we in this room? No. Isn't that awesome to be able to say that to each other? That we're in a room full of people willing to change? We're at least willing to change. We're not saying that we will on everything, but we're at least willing to have an experience that has a mind willing to change. When I was doing a pilot, when I was filming this pilot, which, just for shits and giggles, I'll play it sometime, but some of you actually went to the premiere, so some of you actually saw it. And it's kind of like, did you ever see that, some of you probably aren't fans, but did you ever see anyone you liked who was a rock and roll star and you saw their first album cover, and you saw like their first album, and then you saw like 5 or 10 albums later, and they kind of looked a whole lot different? Well, The Coming was my first album. I was like Prince with the big afro. It was really cool, but I was young in my artistic form, so there's a lot of that cheesy stuff in there. But it's all right. It's fun. It's comedy. I don't even know what I was going to say about that. Oh yeah. So first, I'll be done in a minute. You gotta let me have this. I'll let y'all in that some other time. So anyway, I'll paint the scene for you because I can't keep it to myself. So I've got my shirt off and I'm in the middle of the hallway and they're filming this shot, and I've got this shot filmed out where I lift my head up. And I gotta think of something to say, because you just don't do that unless you got a line, So I go back, I go, I need a few minutes to meditate. I gotta figure out what I'm gonna say when I lift my head up. So I go back in the room and I'm sitting there and I'm like, you gotta give me a line, you gotta give me a line. So God says, say, welcome all with a heart open to love and a mind willing to change. So that's where that line came from, okay? So that if you're in a room, if you're in this room, you're a part of this practice, which is the evolution of many, many forms of this teaching. You're here because you have a heart open to love and you have a mind willing to change, okay? If you don't have those two things, you're not going to hang with us too long, or you might not even find your way here, because to me that's just a part of truly being open to God guiding your life. So you have to have a mind willing to change and a heart open to love. That was good stuff. Okay, what do I need to do to be more balanced approach to death? We kind of talked about that. What stops me from going up? Oh, this is a great one. So this is honesty time, all right? I always want you guys to be honest it's not about being honest with me or with yourself. It's about being honest with the practice, okay? We need to be honest with this experience, because if we don't, we can't really help it grow. We need to be honest about what resonates, what doesn't resonate. We need to have a mind willing to change about the situation. So this is a great question. What stops me from going up and with Keith and my brothers and sisters in class and receiving healing? So what stops you from walking up here? Now many of you have, okay? But some of you haven't. So I want to hear, just tell me, what stops you sometimes? Anybody? Kathy?
Being vulnerable.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or that you're gonna say something that I don't want people to hear.
Yeah.
Not that you would do it intentionally, but if you're really doing your work, you're gonna say whatever needs to be said. It's gonna come through you, and I just, vulnerable.
That's the answer, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah. So does it make it a whole lot? Does it make you look at the other people differently that have walked up here and received them? Okay. Now this is something that we're going to need to work through. Okay. I need help with this. I need feedback. I need help, Kathy.
I just realized what stops me.
What?
I don't deserve it.
Oh.
I want to hunger.
You absolutely deserve it. Everything.
That's awesome.
I loved what you said about one person's healing is all our healing.
That's right. That's what's so important. All right. That's what's so important. That's why we need to flush these things out. We need to get these things out of our channels, okay? Because you're all here to be amazing channels of love. You're here to bring through healings for millions and millions of people that don't even know who you are. So we have to get all these reasons out, and we have to heal through them. And we have to start feeling really, really comfortable as a group, okay? Because if we can't feel comfortable as a group, then we can't feel comfortable as humanity. We've all had the same experiences. We all have the same vulnerabilities, whether we remember them in this lifetime or they were from a lifetime in the past. How often does something happen to someone that you just can't relate to on some level? That you don't have some level of, God, yeah, that must have, or, boy, that must have. It's natural in all of us, okay? So the real miracle of the practice, okay, that has yet to be fully uncorked, fully let go, is when one person's healing is allowed to be a millionth person's healing. If one person goes through an experience and heals from it, and we can totally let ourselves see ourselves in that person, we can receive all the healing that they received simply because we see ourselves in them. It's like talking, it should be like talking to ourselves in the mirror. We shouldn't notice that the face is different. We should see the experiential pattern of their consciousness and say, consciousness is universal, and if consciousness is having an experience and growing and learning from that, then why should I have to go through that healing on my own, or why should I even have to go through that experience on my own? If someone's gone through that experience and I can totally learn and grow from their conscious experience, then I can go through it without having to go through it. Possibly. Let's at least be possible, right? Sometimes we have to go through it. But if someone is healed from something, okay, and you can accept the healing that God has given them as your own, then that healing is your healing. It's only your ability to transcend that stops you from receiving that healing. And that's when we started getting those Facebook clicks from someone in California who received a healing when people walked up. And I was talking to you all last time that I watched those healings, okay, that God's giving all of you. And I receive healings from those healings. So I'm so grateful and thankful. So what we need to realize is that we are chosen to be courageous. We are chosen to be open and vulnerable. How many of you have I shared something intimate about my life with you and my experience with you in one of our visits? How many of you have I shared something with that? Yeah. There's at least 50% to 60% of the hands up. And how many of those things have I shared with you would be, could you have used against me, or could you have seen me in a negative light, right? Mm-hmm. Okay? I don't care. I don't fear judgment. Okay? Because no one can take from me what is truly my worth on this planet, and that is my ability to love individuals around me. Okay? They could take me from being a doctor, but I've already admitted that it has almost nothing to do with why people come to see me. So that really can't do anything to me anymore. They can't take away my license to love. All of you have a license to love. If you have a license to love, you have a license to heal. That's it. It's that simple. Okay? I'm going to keep teaching you that, telling you that. I want to create an environment of healed healers. People that have been healed by this group experience and that want to go out and share that healing with others, and by sharing it, be healers. Healers aren't someone who necessarily do anything. Healers are someone that is open and willing to share something, to be vulnerable, to be open in their heart, to be willing to be told they're crazy or they're this or they're that. When you guys see the pilot, when I show you the pilot someday, okay, I'm very vulnerable. And you know what I'm really vulnerable in? I'm very vulnerable in my immaturity. I'm willing to be immature and not ready to do something and do it anyway. And I'm willing to be seen as immature in that and face the immaturity and then go back and simmer on it for another few years and then come back and talk a book and simmer on that and come back and do a class. I'm willing to be immature in my process. Because is there value in me being immature in front of you? Is there value in me showing my immaturity and my development in something? Does it make others feel comfortable with their immaturity and their development in something? Yeah. I need to be an example of that. I'm not here to be an example of the end-all, be-all. I'm here to be an example that all of you can be. That's the big difference in the message of practice. It's not saying, wait until you're Keith. It's saying, you're it. Start. Just start. It's in you. It's in all of us. We all have a license to heal. Which is a heck of a lot better than everyone else, not everyone else, a lot of other people in the world that think they have a license to steal, all right? Well, we have a license to heal. You know, and don't ever let anything within you or around you take that license away from you, because that is a God-given license and it came with your heart. When your heart started beating, that license was there. Just use it. Use it. So, that's our review. So, I don't think we have any housekeeping stuff to do we, Sarah? I think we're all right on everything like that? Okay. You have a book?
I don't have a book, no. She can use mine.
Is that book that young lady back there?
Thank you so much.
Sarah, can you give me a book? Okay, I want you to do this. I want you to do this. Stop on a page, and I want you to tell me what I'm going to talk about tonight.
I am one who loves death.
What page?
Page 47.
Okay? 47. So you guys have to realize this, okay? All of you who are just tuning into this episode and haven't watched other ones. Does this episode literally fit right after the last episode? Did anyone have any control over that? And that's just crazy amazing. What was your first name again, darling?
Patricia.
Patricia?
Uh-huh.
With a P, right?
With a P.
Okay, it was 47, wasn't it?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. This is beautiful, all right? I am one who loves death. I see it as a part of life, as birth to the other side. It's a transition point to a future life in another form. If I am stuck being obedient to emotions that are prescribed, I will never allow myself to know and be that truth without feeling bad that I know it. Okay? If we don't allow ourselves to live in our immortality, okay, then we constantly feel bad about being mortal. Let's stay committed to a healthy, to the reality of life, which is that we will experience death an infinite number of times. You may feel an immediate resistance to that truth because we all have a level of ignorance that allows us to believe we still have a choice where death is concerned. But the statement is true. Become a student of life and find this truth for yourself. Life doesn't lie about death because death is an inevitable part of the cycle. when we lose our integrity by defaulting into a habituated emotional response about death without giving real reflection to the truth, we enable that person to continue to deny that death is not a part of the cycle of life, as if it is something altogether awful that has happened to a certain individual. By not telling the truth, we set up people for more suffering in the future. Of course, a person's emotional response is never wrong because it is based in his or her current level of consciousness, which means you're at where you're at. Yet if we don't speak the truth from a loving, peaceful place while respecting a person's emotional state and telling the truth, we don't do them any service. There's always room for a drop of truth, a word, a phrase. Now, let's just sit for a second with, we're arriving in this place of acceptance of immortality, okay? Let's just really let ourselves have permission to really accept that we've all been living for a very, very, very long time, okay? And let's just allow ourselves to believe that we're going to live for a very, very long time after this. Now, whether you completely believe that's true or not, or whether it's up for debate, that's not our purpose here. We're just going to have a practice. We're just going to practice something. And you're in that place of peace. And you're going, now let's take it real life, because this is about practicing the practice. And you go to a situation, and I'm going to throw out a scenario, all right? A mother in her 50s has just lost her son in his 30s to suicide. Okay, he's committed suicide. And you're associated with the family, and so you're going to the service. Now this is practice, everybody. This is practice, okay? If you don't practice having that conversation, how are you thinking you're going to have that conversation? Are you going to default back into your old ways, or are you going to step into something, you know, a little more evolved? Or you're going to go to the same thing you've always done, trust me, all right? So, I want to call on some people, and I want them to tell me what they're going to say to this mother that they're friends with. They've known the family, and her child has just committed suicide, and they're walking into the service. Okay, and I'm going to just be guided to who to ask here for this one. I'm going to ask Sonia. Just what comes to you. This is practice, remember.
Okay.
We're all okay with being in an immature state of development on this point, and we're all going to grow together on it, okay? So this is just a starting point, and then we're going to dialogue on what does everybody think, how can we improve it. This is all of us working together, okay? So I don't want her to feel like she has to come up with an answer. Just a starting point.
Well, first I would give them my condolences, and then I would talk about happy times about their son.
Beautiful. Okay? Is it ever inappropriate to bring joy into a conversation? Great start. What's your first name?
Me?
Yeah.
Renee.
Renee? Renee, what would you say? What would you add to that? We have condolences, bring a moment of joy. What would you say?
I was just going to say, I would just say I'm sorry. And I think I would probably feel a sense of fear for my own family and my own kids.
Right on. Okay. So this is what I wanted to move into a little bit, and I think it's talked about in the book, but this is a great point, so I'm glad Renee brought it up. If we haven't practiced our own practice with our own people that we love in our life, okay, if we haven't gone through dealing with the possibility of death of people that we love, our family, our friends, our children, we can't be as useful in situations because that situation is triggering us into our own emotional release. Which is, again, no judgment in any of this, it's just the way it works. That's why the more we can practice releasing emotions in our own life, and the more we can do some visualization, and I think in the book I talk about doing the visualization around my youngest son, and I finally just had to visualize him getting in a car accident and being hit by a car and dying in my arms. I had to do that because, you know, my youngest son, Tristan, he's a bit reckless, and when he was young, he would just cross the street. He would just go out into the street, and he wouldn't think about it. And, you know, so we almost got hit by a car a couple times. I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and visualize this happening. Remember, visualization doesn't mean prophecy. Visualization is an exercise. Don't give everything such power to bring events into your life. Thy will be done. Thy will be done. We worship the Creator, not the created. So feel safe in doing visualization without creating some type of prophecy. Don't get messed up in that. That's just silly, superstitious stuff. Just if you're doing a visualization to come to a space of peace, that's your intention. There's never going to be harm come to someone you love because you're trying to come to a deeper place of peace so you can be more useful and helpful to people that are going through tragedy. Why would God punish you for that? That's insane. So don't believe that stuff. It's garbage. Garbage. Practice. So I practiced with my son. Practiced the loss. Practiced the pain. Sobbed. Took myself deep into that, what that would feel like, as best as I could without losing him. But I was vulnerable. That word's going to come up a lot. I was vulnerable to feel it. I trusted that I would come out of it if I let myself go into it. I did that. I had great peace with my child then. Okay? I had great peace with losing him. I had great peace with what would happen. I knew he would go on. I knew he wasn't my child. I knew he was just a gift that I had been given. For relatively speaking, whether it was for 12 years or whether it was, until I passed away, it's still a relatively short period of time that we have people with us. And I was able to come to peace with that. If I don't, then I'm dealing with some of what Renee would be dealing with, which would be the fear of her own loss that she hadn't resolved. Now, if you do practice that, okay, come to peace with it, then that's not in the space when you're with someone. But that's a very valuable comment. What would you say? Tim, by the way.
Hi, Keith. I would say that anyone who gets to the point of suicide has been in so much pain that they needed to find relief. And it was probably not a very quick decision that they made. They probably thought about it for a long time and in many cases felt like they were creating pain for so many others and it was a relief for them. And I would say that based on what your individual belief might be, that we should feel happy for them, that in this lifetime may not have been the right rhythm for them, and that they needed to go on to whatever's next to realize whatever that was going to be.
So one of the things that I was confronted with the situation, okay? And one of the things that I was guided to say to these parents was, I know how much you loved your son, and there was absolutely nothing you could have done to prevent it. I gave them permission to feel good about themselves, which is really, really what they needed. Because that's where the pain was. The pain was, what could I have done? And the reality was, these were wonderful people. They are wonderful people, and they couldn't have done anything else. Okay, so that's a very important one. Okay, it's very important that when you're dealing with death, that you don't so much care about what the person that died is going through. You always focus on the people that are still around. Jess.
So it's funny you brought this up. A good friend of mine lost his brother Sunday night to a heroin overdose. And I'm close with his whole entire family, and I'm going to the wake tomorrow. And I had lunch with him today. And the first thing I said, your brother's okay. He's okay. I believe that in the bottom of my heart that he's okay. You just have to make sure you're okay. And, so, it's exactly that. And he's like, I'm just so sick of hearing I'm sorry. I'm so sick of like my condolences, and he's like, I'm sick of people like just being awkward around me and like fearful, and like because of this book and because of everything, I didn't. Right when I found out, I called him and I said, I love you, and it's okay, and then I forced him to come out. Like he didn't want to do anything. I forced him to leave, and I wasn't worried about like the feelings that if I was offending him by making him get out of himself, and that's strictly because of this and the whole 9 yards. Where before, I would be so fearful of offending him in a time of like grief and the whole 9 yards there. So.
Isn't that, come on, guys. I mean, you know what I've really learned through working with people every day for 20 years, okay, is, God, people know love. People know love. People know what it is when someone is not in their head, when they're just being loving and they're just coming from their heart. And when you get a lot of those emotional reactions out of the way, you could just come from your heart. And that's what you did. He knew you were just being fearless in your love for him. That you didn't care how it looked. He knew you loved him, and he knew you were trying to help him out. And it wasn't about, I'm sorry or anything else. It was just love. People recognize that. You can make a lot of mistakes. Trust me, I've been in practice for 20 years. I've treated tens of thousands of people. I have made a lot of mistakes. It's called practice. I didn't get to be the doctor I am at 20 years because I wasn't the doctor I was at 1 year and 5 years, all right? I made a lot of mistakes, but I made them really, really loving people with all my heart. And I praise God every day for making those mistakes very, very small and making them okay. And just allowing me to keep coming from a loving place. When we come from a loving place, no matter what mistakes we make, God takes care of them, or we can make simple apologies and they can be fine. You just got to come from your heart. You got to come from your heart. Mary Lou.
A dear friend of mine lost her husband, and she was really having a very hard time adjusting to what happened. And so she knows my belief in angels, and I brought her an angel book. And I said to her, he may be gone in the physical, but he's still with you. He's a special angel. And I said, if you believe, I said, you'll get a message. The message is, as your journey continues. A month later, I'm starting to go to school, and she had called, and she said, Mary Lou, I just walked in, and I had the scent of cherry, and he smoked cherry tobacco in his pipe. And so I said,